hushed and grim, Atlanta turned painful eyes towards the faraway little town of Gettysburg, and a page of history waited for 3 days while two nations come to the death grips on the farmlands of Pennsylvania. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this rendition of Thunderdome Retro Reviews. I am Tracey Newport, and with me, as always, is the Reverend Ben Lindsay, the Dr. David Pizzo, and the now permanent resident, Gabe Cooper. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
I think permanent resident is actually kind of a cool nickname for Gabe. But anyway, I'm doing pretty good.
The permanent resident of what?
We're going
metal. Who knows? Metal.
The House of Metal.
So to steal a name from an album we done earlier this year, let's call him the Resident Human.
I mean,
everybody else is not.
I'm going to keep calling him Gabe. That's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm doing great, Tracy. I'm ready. No, I'm not ready. I'm ready, not ready to talk about the most pandemic-y album of all the pandemic-y albums that have existed so far.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a moment, I'm sure. Jesus, Tracy.
Yeah.
Oof.
But for y'all watching on YouTube, and for those of you not, we are looking at Mastodon's Hushed and Grim.
Emphasis on the grim.
Yeah. This was my pick for October. I picked it because, if you can't tell, I'm a big Mastodon fan. I decided I needed to represent tonight. I really enjoyed Emperor Sand. As you can go back and listen to our reviews on that one, where me and David both, me and David was on an episode as before David joined in full time, but me and Ben fully disagreed on the album by a lot. And so, of course, I had to bring in more Mastodon.
By a lot, he means like an A+ and a B. So
that's not too bad.
I thought you gave it like a D.
That's actually pretty good.
I'm pretty sure I gave it a B. I might have given it a D.
Oh, man, I'm about to go look.
Those are very different.
Look.
It's only one little line difference.
I remember shitting on it, but I don't think that I actually gave it that bad of a grade.
Emperor Sand is the album I came in on because of Tracy. He's like, hey, this is a thing. So that was the first album I really heard.
You gave it a B.
I mean, Ben just shat on it to show he was serious.
I know.
Yeah, no, I stand by the. I mean, I don't think it's a good album, but it was incredibly well played. Much like this is an incredibly well played album. They have, if anything, they've gotten better instrumentally. The songwriting, they have played with the structures and formats of the songs. This is much more progressive, to the point where this is a band that has two different albums their fan base considers sellouts, with this being one. And the other one being Emperor of Sand, whatever the fuck.
Well, a lot of people consider Crack the Sky a sellout because they stepped away from Leviathan. You got to look at when they jumped on the bandwagon. If they were there from original, when they first hit big with Leviathan, and then like they hit Crack the Sky or even Blood Mountain, people are like, what the fuck? And then I think now you're hitting another point where they're like, what the hell?
Well, Emperor of Sand added a bunch of grunge, essentially. Whereas this, I don't even know, what is this, Alice in Chains? Like more grunge / some lukewarm.
I may have to challenge you to a duel for besmirching Alice in Chains' name by association with this album.
How dare you drag the name through the mud?
I don't think Emperor Sand's grunge. I think it's...
You don't? I think
that may be my pick for us to revisit at the end of the year when we do that episode.
I would listen to that again.
That's just because you want us to do like 18 Mastodon albums since we're doing a blast.
Is this Guar Part 2?
It's Guar, the Reckoning.
Y'all didn't know it.
Less good, but yeah.
You're about to listen to like 7 Mastodon albums in like a 2-month time.
Oh, no.
I didn't sign on for this, guys. I did not.
David sounds so excited.
Gabe, the not-so-permanent resident.
I have to say, this is my very first Mastodon record. I don't think I've listened to any other Mastodon records. So it was really interesting. I had no idea what to expect. And yeah, it was just kind of a strange experience, especially because it's so long, you know?
Very.
It is their longest album to date, and I think
it's a double fucking album. Let's not kid ourselves.
They even said it's a double album, but Ben, let's get some details before we.
Sure.
It
released in? No, it was released in October, so that's an error I typed in.
Yeah,
October 24th, 2021. 8th studio album on Reprise. Producer was David Bottrill. Runtime 86 minutes and 30 seconds. Brand Daylor on drums and vocals, Brent Hines on lead guitar and vocals, Bill Kelleher rhythm guitar, Troy Sanders vocals and bass guitar, and 18,000 other people as additional musicians, whom I'm not going to specifically name except for a couple. If you want to, you can pause the YouTube video and look at the list, or you can go to the Wikipedia for the album, which is where I got the list of additional musicians. Jodie Sanders, who is Troy's mom, plays French horn on here, which I thought was kind of cool. And Kim Thiel's solo guitar was amazing. Amazing. So, as was Marcus King's. So, I will mention those three people.
I think the keyboard on this album's pretty good, but what is that? Joao Nogueira.
Yeah.
Darby Rose Tapley. It's amazing how consistent their lineup has been, though. That's the thing. Like, as many sonic changes as they've undergone or inflicted upon us, it's basically the same people.
It's been the same band since
years
after their first album.
I think so.
And what happened is they lost the lead singer, and Troy picked up singing duties and did solo vocals for 2 albums. Then Brent started singing on Blood Mountain, and then Bran joined in singing on Crack the Sky, and it's been the 3 of them since.
I think Bran's almost the best singer.
I mean, yeah, he's got that almost. Did you ever see Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
A million times.
So the movie with that, the cut with the Linoleum Life, that's Bran doing the King Diamond style vocals on that.
Nice.
So, and to kind of lead that into our discussion about the album, I will say there's one thing I did not like about the album, in that Brent's vocals are missing from all but 2 tracks on here. I think he has a nice, almost ZZ Top style, nasally vocal pattern that he sings with. I think adds a nice touch. But he did an interview and you found out why, which has pissed some of the fan base off.
What did he say in the interview?
So ultimately, he announced on the interview that he's doing a side project next year with Matt Pike from Sleep and
Sure.
Who's the stoner? What's the stoner band we've done a couple of albums on?
High on Fire?
Yeah. He's doing an album with him, and Brent said he willfully kept a lot of stuff from this album to do with him instead.
Yeah. He's a grown-ass man.
Not quite who was it? Mr. Bungle. And it's like Mr. Bungle's the main band, but still kind of a lot. It's upset quite a bit of the fans and the fan base. And so a lot of this is Troy, Bran, and Bill and their songwriting.
The argument is the drummer was holding all this shit? Is that what you're saying?
The drummer, like Bran,
yeah,
Troy, and Bill, so the rhythm guitarist, the bassist, and the drummer are their main songwriters, or were the main songwriters on this album.
But who you said was withholding? It was the drummer.
Brent.
It was
the lead guitar.
Oh, yes. Okay.
He only sings
Got
on
it.
The Beast and Peace and Tranquility.
Yeah.
And like as I was hearing it the first time, I was like, man, I haven't heard him a lot in here. And which I think Troy's voice has grown a lot since the earlier days. He does a great job with that. And Bran is just like, hey, I can do this, watch me. But as a fan listening to it, like in concession between Emperor Sand, they did an EP called A Cold Dark Place they released either late 2017 or early 2018. That if you were listening to Emperor Sand, Cold Dark Place in here, you see the steps that they move towards. You can see the progression in their songwriting in that sense. And I feel like I could talk all night on this album, so anybody want to step in?
You know,
it would only be about 3 seconds longer than it took to listen to the original. So go ahead.
You know, this album, the concept is that we all die and become part of a hideous tree. That's the concept here. And you're looking at the tree now if you're looking at us on YouTube. You know, what I have to say about this is, because I've talked to some people on this album, it hit me hard. We have reviewed plenty of albums, obviously, that were released since the pandemic started. But I feel like this is the first truly pandemic album. Part of it is, of course, there's a lot of bands like, you know, as we've discussed, Iron Maiden or Carcass waited, right? Like they held on to their albums sometimes for months. Or like even if they were sort of recorded early in the pandemic, the writing had happened earlier. So this album not only was recorded and put out during the pandemic, it absolutely grapples with it in a way that really, you know, it's been a hard week, y'all. It's been a hard year and a half. So this album hit me very hard, and I liked it a lot for that, and I really embraced it and listened to it way too much. And I am guessing that in 10 years' time, I will not listen to it ever again. That's my guess. I'll be done with it the same way I'm done with this shit, but we're still living in it. So, as you said, Ben, it's like an emotion thing. That's the thing about music. And this song, there's some songs on here that I'm sure we'll talk about when we get into songs that hit me very, very, very hard in a way that is not typical for the stuff we do on the show. And I don't know if it helped or hurt me, but it is what it is. So, not to bring it down, but shit, y'all.
Yeah, as far as the pain on this album, or maybe the hushedness of this album, I was totally not expecting it. It was very smooth, much too smooth for my taste. They also tended to have a lot of their tracks in 4, but with subdivided triplets kind of feel to it. I don't know if that's like just a writing thing of theirs, or if it's typical or what, but I noticed it, so it's obviously something that repeats.
I did
for sure.
Yeah.
What did you say they did?
So it's in 4, but you can hear subdivided triplets under it, like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, or the 4 is like really slow, like 1 2 3 4, but you got triplets like basically going under it, either in the guitar, either in the drums or in the guitar rhythm or whatever.
I think that's a thing they do a lot on other albums too.
It was kind of old by the end of it. I mean, the other thing is like, we're going to discuss this in detail, I'm sure, but like with the two sides of this record, the two pieces, I felt they were quite uneven.
Where's the break?
What's that?
Where's the break? I wasn't totally sure.
The first record ends after Pushing the Tides.
Fuck, that makes sense. And so it opens with Peace and Tranquility, the second album.
I didn't know exactly where.
Ouch.
I figured it. I felt it either ended at Teardrinker or Pushing the Tides. I didn't know which one where it split at.
It's Pushing the Tides. And I haven't read any interviews with the guys to know what their thought process was. But to me, this is, this is a band that is very good about expressing loss in their music, because was it Crack in the Sky, Tracey, which was about the sister's suicide?
Yes.
Yeah, Crack the Sky was about Brand's 15-year-old sister committing suicide.
Amber Sands was about his wife having Troy Sanders' wife having cancer.
And
this album was about their
And Bill's mother died
of cancer in 2018. Yeah.
And this one is about their manager. Yeah, exactly. Their manager and longtime friend dying of cancer, which figures heavily on this album, which made it difficult for me, given the month it is. So there's a lot of pain on here. They're good at pain. They've, I guess, felt it endlessly for years. So that's what they do.
I said that they had increased their songwriting and their sonic palette and all that stuff, but they have, for the most part, rejected all the classical metal elements on this album. This is an alt rock album. I mean,
I think that's true. It's got some metal moments, but not very many.
No, totally, it does. And actually, some of the metal moments weren't the best ones on the album. When we get into the tracks, the stuff that I like really wasn't the metal stuff. I agree with Gabe that I felt this was incredibly uneven. I think that you could, as a matter of fact, if I was just grading the second half of the album, I would have given it a higher grade, because honestly, the first half I don't think is very good at all. I mean, there are some elements in some of the songs that are good, but it's the same thing I say about a lot of post-metal or modern progressive stuff, is that they just put too many ideas in a song that go nowhere, and I am not here for that. I know some people like to go on the journey, and that's cool, but not me.
I don't know who you're talking about, Ben.
I don't either, Tracey.
I don't either.
What do you think of it, Tracey? I mean, you have by far the most Mastodon experience.
So this album, like at times I heard it, I'm like, man, this is a really, really good album. And there are times I heard it, it's lower in the rankings for me of their albums where I put them. And it bounces back and forth. It depends on my mood. There are moments in here where it's like you can feel the sadness like just kind of oozing out of this album. Just like, moments when you're good for it and I hear it, and the times you're not like it. So this album's been a very weird one for me to hear. I know you guys were talking about the back half of the album. Of that album, that second half reminded me a lot of Troy Sanders' side project, Gone is Gone, that he does with one of the guys from Queens of Stone Age, that hits a lot in that very same sonic space as well. And so I think at one moment I'm like, hey, this album's an A. At some moment I'm like, hey, it's a B. Like I very heavily on this album. So this isn't an album like I
don't know that an A to a B is varying heavily, but okay, fair point.
Well, like for me,
if he's excited about the band, I feel like it is, like I think it says something.
Like for me, this is a like when I hear it, one moment I heard, I'm like, okay, this is a good album. Second time I'm like, all right, it's a great album. And like just that varying degrees of where I'm at in my like emotionally and my mind kind of changes how I view the album. And I feel like for me, it's going to be a hard album in which I've got to do it. That's the task we're called upon here to nail grade down the album. But I feel like I need more time. Like my true feelings for this album will probably be better known when we do our end of year list than now.
So in response to what you just said and Gabe just said, and having done this with you from the beginning, because initially it was just me and you, and then David joined, and now Gabe is with us. I don't recall you talking about a band in this way. So is this your favorite band? And if not, I think it might actually be, because I think you would say the Scar Symmetry is your favorite band, but you gush a lot more about this than you do Scar Symmetry.
You do. That's
well, it's easy to know why. Scar Symmetry hasn't released a fucking album for 6 years, so it's hard to gush over a band.
But this was their first since like what, 2002 or something?
No, this is their first album since 2017.
17 is Emperor of Sand.
They do a good job of, and that's part of like Brent's issue with the band in a sense. I think is he's kind of tired because they're without the pandemic. I would guarantee that the next album would probably came out in 2020. They're very 2 years touring, year in the studio, 2 years touring, year in the studio. Like that's a very common pattern for them. And so this is like a year past that. And so, are they my favorite band? If they're not the clear number one, they're at least a 1A to a 1B. And Scar Symmetry is probably the other band up there with them.
Well, they haven't put, as you say, they haven't put out an album in, what are we at now?
20. When did we go to Fort Smith, Ben? For the 2014?
I think it's 2014.
Yeah, 2014. I think
it's 7 years.
Yeah, so we're sitting at 7 years for a new album that they've said they've been making since 2014. A part 2 to a part 1. So, that's probably it. But yeah, these guys were probably one of my favorite bands. And when I first heard them, like 06, 07, I was not a big fan of them. But there is a track I can directly point to. I heard it, and everything for this band clicked. And I've been on the ride since.
I've said before that 06 is when I saw them in concert. And I thought they were okay. And Leviathan, I think, was the album cycle that they were on then. And that was more sludge metal, so it was actually more in my own internal wheelhouse of what I like. And since then, they've just gotten further and further away from that. Better songwriters than they were. Anyway, we're not doing all their albums yet. Stay tuned. We will be at a few today.
I promise you.
Yes. Tracey promises on the blood of 1 million chickens that we will be doing the rest of the day.
That's a week, son. We got about 5 million chickens between then and now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will gush over this band until I cannot gush no more. And I'm part of Dan things he doesn't like about this band. I enjoy that they spread their wings, because Leviathan is a very, as Ben said, sludgy album that's very, I don't want to say one track, but it's what they do in that album is very narrow. And every album, they continue to broaden that what they do to the point I would be surprised if 2 albums down the line, if we got some electronic shit going off in the background while hearing like a hurdy-gurdy and a hopsichord going off, and that's all you're hearing in a song.
Well, I might be more here for this than or for that than I am for this. And this kind of goes to something that David had touched on earlier. To me, it felt like there is a miasma hanging over this album that I'm not necessarily here for. And some of the songs, I think they tap into it very well, and I do like it. But overall, like I said, it's too all over the place for my taste.
Well,
so shall we talk about the millions of tracks?
15 tracks.
I know, it's not actually that many. So your pick, Tracey, or do you want somebody else to go before you come in saying?
Of them? I mean, I enjoy every track on this album for different reasons. Like there's very pinpoint like tracks. Like if I'm in a good mood and hear this album, cool. If I'm in a bad mood and hear this track, I'm a mess hearing it. So yeah, I'm gonna say all of them. They all have their place within my psyche.
That is an appropriate response, I guess. I'll go next. On the first disc, I like The Beast okay until the end of it. A lot of these, the beginnings of the songs I thought were really, really good, but then they would like come in and start singing and fuck it up or do something else. The second disc I actually liked a lot better. In our group chat, as if you are a long-time listener to Thunderdome Metal Reviews, when Tracey picks one of these albums, my refrain will be, well, that's not good prog. I actually think The Dagger is good prog. I was actually really surprised by how much I liked that song. The song that I said, if you listen to our last review, that I think might be the best song that I've heard all year has Had It All. I love that song. And that really, like David said, that one taps into a lot of catharsis and pain. Your mileage may vary depending on your own life experiences with that, as with all music. And Eyes of Serpents, I like until the very end of the song, and then they kind of fuck it up. But the rest of this, I would hit skip if I were listening to it again.
I can go ahead. So I did say that it was uneven. The more that I listened to it, the more the catchiness was kind of sticking its claws into me. So on the second listen around, I think I was really digging the crux for its riffs. I don't like that it slows down halfway through, but whatever. The only other track on that side that I thought was worth sticking around for was Pushing the Tides, and it was just okay. But it's not really enough to say, the first disc is really worth listening to. Second disc, however, I enjoyed the riffs on Peace and Tranquility. It's not annoying and it's a bit slow, but I'll take it. I also enjoyed Dagger, which is not at all heavy, but at least it's interesting. I thought that Gobblers of Dregs was probably one of the better tracks on that side, and I enjoyed the solo. Eyes of Serpents, definitely heavier, definitely liked it better than, much of the preceding. So.
Something's a little hit or miss with me. There's so many tracks, though. I think about the ones that I actually downloaded. It was about half of them. So I think Pain with an Anchor is a really good opener and very sad. I like the Crux. Again, I like the riffs like Gabe. I like Sickle and Peace. A lot of death there. I like More Than I Could Chew. I love the Beasts and Skeletons of Splendor drag some. Wish they were faster. Drink everyone. Anyway, they sort of drag a bit. Tear Drinker, there's a reference to Coleridge's immortal poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, which of course connects it to Power Slave, the most important album that's ever existed. So I'm just going to
everyone drink again.
Everyone drink twice. Pushing the Tides, I listened to way too many times. and in ways that really hurt me speaks to where I am at mentally right now, so far as I feel I am with every ounce of what's left of me trying to push the ocean back. So that's where that is. Peace and Tranquility made me devastatingly sad, and I think it's quite effective. It's fast, but also quite pretty. Dagger and Had It All are okay, but then Savage Lands, I'm like, okay, we picked it up again. I like that song. It's fast. I also think Goblins of Dregs is pretty good. And I think Gigantium is a good song. It's about a relationship collapsing. And as somebody who is both, I've been in a marriage that self-destructed and then one that has prevailed. I've thought about this a lot. So putting that in the frame of the pandemic, of course, is just, so many relationships have not survived this last year and a half. I don't know what their deal is, but a lot of people, it just became a pressure cooker and they couldn't hack it. So, I think this album is more than anything I've heard so far in the zeitgeist of 2021. And that is why I suspect in a decade's time, God willing, if we're past this, I will not want to listen to it. I suspect.
Well, I'm going to fall on the sword here. I guess I'm going to give it an A-. Sit there like a 91 on it. I think it's a really good album. I like some of the stuff better, but I think I need more time with this album to fully come to grips with it.
There are 15 tracks. It's 83 minutes. There are 2 songs that from beginning to end I liked. F.
What level F are we talking about? We talking
F minus?
A 0 or
F
talking
plus?
No,
60?
It'd be like a 59. It's almost passing just because of the complexity of the songs and the and I do agree with David that it taps into the zeitgeist of the time, but there's just a whole lot of meh.
What I'm hearing is if they do the extra credit, they might get the D.
They might get the D. Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing at a 59.
If I get paid.
Yeah, right. If you send me like a 0.00001 of one of your royalty checks, which I'm sure this is going to sell a bajillion copies of. But no, in all seriousness, if like the first out, if they had released this as 2 albums in the same year, but not at the same time, one of them would have failed. And actually, one of them probably would have got a D, and the other one probably would have got like a maybe even a B, because I think that if we're only looking at the 7 tracks of the second half of the album, I liked 2 of those quite a bit. And there's a third one that I talked about enjoying. So, but just it's the entire sheer mass of it, the gigantium of it collapsing under its own weight.
So you're telling me if you've got an essay exam with 2 essays and one is a B and one is a D, that the average is F?
If you turn it all in together, because that is a whole lot of filler.
Oh shit, y'all! I am much more in Tracey's zone on this. I can't give it an A because Jesus, is it long? And I know they recorded 20 songs. I did read a bunch of interviews with them. I watched some of the videos, which are fucked up, by the way. We didn't get into that, but and they were like, we only had to cut from 20 to 15, and that was doable. I'm like, well, maybe you should have cut to like 12. I don't know. I think they could have shortened this some. But the songs that I do like, I like. Or no, endure. I don't even know the word. Like is not quite what it is. I feel, that's the word I'm going to say. I feel them very deeply. So it is an A- for me, like Tracey.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to split the difference. And I'm going to assert that this is for hardcore fans only. It's a 78 for me. It's got some, pop appeal, but that's not really what I'm looking for. And I also think that some of the songs are too long and the record is definitely too long. So
for sure.
Yeah, just a C+ for me.
What's that put it at, Tracey? B-?
I put it at the Thunderdome at a B-.
Thanks,
keeps it
averages.
Keeps the honor student in the honors program. That's what it does.
It's not an academic probation where Ben would put it.
I would send it to another university. Tracey U is where I would send it.
Tracey U. Chicken U. It's like brought to you by Pilgrim.
I think you need to go into this other program.
You do better there.
I got a program for you.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I hope you're happier with the next album we do.
What is
What
the
is
next
that?
one I'm going to do?
It is 6 Feet Under's Warpath.
Oh, I've selected that, so hopefully I won't give it an F. Oh.
I hope not.
But I
I
somehow
might. Who knows? And we'll see.
Ben's the dude doing the inside job on his own shit.
Well, thank you for listening to Thunderdome Metal Reviews.
Bye.
Bye.